Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Fractal Bitcoin. Welcome to today's Bitcoin news video. I'm Chris. And by the way, this show's about Bitcoin, but it's really about your future prosperity. And so we cover Bitcoin because that's the most important part of your future prosperity. But we also cover some fiat nonsense because you have to understand how you're being scammed and stolen from right now, every day. So the Bitcoin price right now is 59,640. Look at this. We're cruising down. Big red candle today. We're heading back down. It was about a week ago where we sort of, this little local bottom of 58,414. We'll see if we get there, or we might turn around. Look, we might go sideways for 3 months. We know this. It's all good. But when things are down, you know what the real Bitcoiners do. They stack sats. That's right. They buy the dip. This is not financial advice. Right, Barry?
No way. You crazy?
I know. That'd be crazy giving financial advice. I'm not giving financial advice, but yeah, this is crazy. So yeah. And here's Benjamin Cowan. He made a 10-minute video discussing the Bitcoin bull market support band, which are these two moving averages that you can see. And apparently in a bull market, we sort of keep going up, and when we come down to this support band, we bounce off it. We came below it here, but we ended up bouncing, and we didn't touch it for a long time. We might have nicked it right here, but we are touching it now. And so, most likely in a bull run, we're going to bounce off this support band and keep going up. Benjamin Cowan's great. He gives really good technical analysis. Unlike me, who I'm just a normal guy who likes the idea of Bitcoin. And now people are saying that the bull run is over. I can't believe that. I mean, these must be new people that are new to Bitcoin claiming that, oh, the bull market's over. No, we didn't even really start yet. This fall is when we start. Everything that happened so far, going up and making a new all-time high 3 months ago or 4 months ago now, that was because of the ETFs. So is the bull market over? And here's the famous meme. So is the Bitcoin bull market still in the room with us right now? Yeah, treating this guy like he's crazy, talking about a bull market. Come on. All right. And the definition of insanity is selling your Bitcoin right now. Yeah, this is before you sell your Bitcoin, think twice and 3 times and 4 times and really, in essence, don't. And that's not financial advice, but yeah, you can see Bitcoin's growth trajectory after the fourth halving. So right here is where the halving happens. This green line is the first, after the first halving, this is so this is basically the second cycle. The orange line is the third cycle. The yellow line is the fourth cycle, which was the previous one. And right now we just came out of it. So yeah, look, it goes up and to the right after the halving. That's the point of this chart. So don't sell now. Again, not financial advice, but man. And here's McShane reporting, Noobs reaching out, asking what to diversify into to see greater short-term returns in this chop. Yeah, and he says, just accumulate more Bitcoin, lower your time preference, and study more. Yeah, this is, in times like these, stagnation, the summer before the bull run, we need to just relax, study Bitcoin, and yeah. And so, yeah, these are new people who aren't familiar with Bitcoin thinking, oh, I got to diversify. I need to buy some S coins to get some returns. And it's like, don't do that. Well, again, you can do that if you want to gamble. That's fine. But everyone who's done that, including me years ago, everyone who's gone through that phase of S coins, a lot of people come out of it and say, yeah, Bitcoin only. So just be patient. That's the rule. This whole summer, we got to be patient. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard for me. I got to make videos every day trying to make Bitcoin interesting when it's like going sideways and down. But anyway, because we know the phase of the cycle we're in, it's okay. We can handle it. All right, here's a thread from Daniel Batten. This is 10 images that forever changed our perceptions about Bitcoin and energy. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all 10, but just I'll link to it. You can check this out. This is, and send this to anybody who says, oh, Bitcoin uses too much energy. Yeah, well, anyway, I'll show you one image here. This is the different in the ERCOT carbon emissions from the base case in 2030. And you could see inflexible data centers are up at 7.88, whatever carbon emissions, units of carbon emissions. Flexible data centers are a little below, negative actually. And Bitcoin mining data centers are net decarbonizing to the grids, which means the Bitcoin miners are helping to reduce carbon emissions and make the grid more efficient. Proof right here. Hello. Yeah. And this is going to happen more and more. People are going to use Bitcoin mining facilities to use this excess energy that would just otherwise go to waste. It's beautiful. And here is the world's largest Bitcoin mining facility. It's being built in Texas by Riot Platforms. 200 megawatts of the 1 gigawatt total capacity is already operational. And yeah, I guess this is an image of it here in Texas. All right. Yeah, Riot Platforms, they're a big mining company. Anyway, all right, if you want to subscribe, please do. If you're on Rumble, you can follow. Let's get into a couple stories about fiat government nonsense because Bitcoin solves these issues. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have to understand the fiat calamity that's happening in order to fully understand what Bitcoin means. You have to understand both of these things. And then it all clicks. And then you're like, oh, got it. So yeah, this is Dusty posting. When commercial fishermen were recently forced to pay the salaries and costs of having federal observers aboard their fishing vessels, they had enough. This young lady explains what the Supreme Court decision overturning the Chevron Doctrine means for all Americans. This is a fascinating video. I'm actually going to play some of this. We'll play a minute or two. This is really fascinating. This whole Chevron doctrine thing is insane. The Chevron Doctrine is when the government basically decided to give power to these government agencies, a ton of smaller little agencies, you could call them. They're not elected people. They're just an agency that was formed and they have some industry knowledge. And the government said, oh, you know what? Since you have more industry knowledge, we're going to defer to you to make some of the rules in this industry. And then that kept happening over and over. I guess the Chevron Doctrine was from like early 80s. And so all these smaller entities, government agencies, they just started making their own rules. And this also applied, I believe, during COVID and stuff, when the lockdowns and everything. These were like, these independent agencies were basically recommending this or demanding that, businesses be shut down and all that stuff. So the whole point is, why is the government giving power to these agencies, which are unelected people? And so recently, this Chevron Doctrine was overturned. So this is a brilliant phase in American life, in American politics, where we're finally going to hopefully take power away from these unelected agencies. And so they can't just do whatever they want anymore, right? And so let's just check this out.
Stick with me. I'm going to explain how a group of fishermen just took down the fourth branch of government and restored the Constitution. Okay, so in 1984, you had a bunch of judges at the time who were what we call judicial activists, meaning that they are not really restrained to interpretations of the law based on the Constitution or originalism or even based on like stare decisis, which means precedent that's come before. Instead, they just tend to make up law that best suits them. So in 1984, there was a ruling known as the Chevron Doctrine. And in it, the court basically said that when Congress writes a piece of legislation giving unelected bureaucrats and government agencies power to oversee something, if there's ambiguity in that law, the agency, the bureaucrats, the experts, get to basically just decide what their own powers are. Not the courts, not Congress, the unelected bureaucrats. So needless to say, this has coincided with an absolute explosion in rules and regulations over the past several decades. To the point where I would argue Americans are no longer actually living in a representative government for a number of reasons, but predominantly because your elected lawmakers are not the ones really making most of the rules that govern your lives. Instead, it's what we call the fourth branch of government, a bunch of...
Yeah, the fourth branch of government, in quotes. But yeah, when people talk about, oh, the deep state is really controlling things, this is how they control things. These unelected agencies are influenced by rich and powerful people to just do what the rich and powerful people want them to do, right? It's crazy.
Unelected bureaucrats and government agencies. And not only have they been given broad power to just make up powers for themselves because of the Chevron Doctrine, it's also made it really hard to check them when they do things that are unconstitutional. Because thanks to the Chevron Doctrine, which has been law of the land, if you were to try to challenge some of these rules and regulations and powers that they were giving themselves, the courts were told they had to defer to the agency. But in a case that was decided today, known as the Loper case, a group of fishermen brought a challenge to this law and they won, overturning the Chevron Doctrine. This is massive. Everybody in my movement, everybody in libertarian conservative think tank world is freaking out. What this means is that the constitutional order that was supposed to exist is somewhat returned. Congress is supposed to make the laws. The executive is supposed to have a tiny check and balance on those laws with the veto power. And then the courts are supposed to decide what's constitutional. And if there's any ambiguity in there, it should be the courts that ultimately decide, and or it should get kicked back to Congress. Not only did Chevron allow a huge growth in the administrative state, it also allowed a huge growth in the power of the executive. And if you watched that debate last night and you're not convinced that we need to limit the government...
All right, yeah, so we won't watch the rest, but I'll link to it below. But yeah, this is great news. This is literally very hopeful news, because if we can sort of they just did overturn this supposed Chevron Doctrine, we can get all the power away from these unelected people. And what she said, the executive power, think about it. The president says, oh, we want to do this. And he unofficially tells all these agencies to support this, this direction for the country. And they'll just do it and they can't be stopped. And so now they can be stopped. So thank goodness for that. All right, just in, Argentina dissolves the Ministry of Women, Gender, and Diversity, sacking 85% of the staff. There is, quote, no room for excessive spending on the taxpayers' money, end quote. So, I mean, look, Argentina, this Malay guy, he's doing a bunch of good things, get all this social garbage out of politics, right? And get the money out of the government, separate money from state and get all the woke social garbage out of politics and government. It's different. It's separate. We don't need government involved. Yeah, and here, look at this. The European Parliament calls for inclusion of hate speech and hate crime in the EU criminal law. So here we go. Hate speech. Yeah, this now in Europe, if they push for this is going to be insane. Because as Carl Menger says, limiting free speech has one benefit. Once you start to demand borders, you then need an authority to patrol them. That's right. So then they're going to come up with a ministry of speech or whatever, right? Yeah. This moves the issue into the arena of subjectivity, which is a centralized power's dream because they get to define what is and isn't permissible. Shortly after, it is the truth that is deemed to be hate speech and prohibited. So this is what they're going to do. They push for these hate speech laws. Then they're going to slowly change what they say is hate speech. And then just normal people like you and I who come out and say something that's obviously true, they're going to say, nah, it's hate speech. And they're going to send us to jail. So I hope I don't go to jail one day. But if that's how crazy the world gets, then I'll have to go. But yeah, this is clown world, because if you want to bet on the United States election, here's where you can do it. Poly market? What? I swear, this is like a betting. You can bet on the U.S. election or even the Democratic nominee. Really? This is what it's come down to? All right. In other news, PROTON which offers a mail service, like Proton Mail instead of Gmail kind of thing. It's Proton Mail is supposed to be very private, although I've heard some people say different things, but I think in general, Proton is a good company still, a private and secure company, not giving all the data to the governments, we hope. But anyway, they're introducing docs in Proton Drive, collaborative document editing that's actually private. So now if you use Proton Mail, now you have Proton Drive, and it's like Google Drive. You can upload docs, you can share them and collaborate, and apparently it's actually private. We'll see. I guarantee there's going to be a bunch of people who are like, oh, Proton's garbage. It's infiltrated by the government. It's a honeypot. And, but you literally hear that about everything. So let me know if you know anything about this. But yeah, speaking of the election, will the election come down to a two-man race?
That's frightening.
Sorry, I had to include that. And here's another one. I live in constant fear that Trump will deport my Latina mother-in-law who lives at 1837 3rd Street, LA. Blue house. She gets off work at 6. Oh, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. All right. Remember this? In 1995, don't homeschool your kids. They'll be weird. Here's 2023. Kids in public school identifying as barn animals. What? Yeah, and here's the government. If the government had a sandwich making program, this is how it would end up right here. Yeah, try eating that. Yep. And here's a good one. These cats are saying, did you bring the fish? And then the geese say, show the bread first. There's a deal going down. They're dealing. And here's a great one. Yeah. This is a man proposing. He says, I'm going to make you mine. And she says, oh my God, yes. And then look, he makes her mine Bitcoin. Oh yeah, baby. Let's go. And she's like, what? What the heck? Anyway, this is our website, fractalbitcoin.com. Click this link at the very top. It says join our Locals community and come over here and join for free on Locals. There's a mobile app, and I put up exclusive videos here throughout the week, so it's pretty cool. But that's it for today. I really appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe to the channel and follow the channel on Rumble and all that. And yeah, so over the summer, it's going to get boring. Stick with me. We're going to make it through, and it's going to get exciting again, I swear. But these dips are a good time to buy the dip, not financial advice. So, all right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's Bitcoin news video. All right.